It's Thursday, December the 21st. I haven't done a report in a couple weeks. I've had some construction projects going on, and sometimes I just need a break from fishing. So it was good to get a couple week break. I did get out this weekend and yesterday as well. But there's a couple different bites going on. They're probably going to be going on all winter long. But let me back up a little bit. The lake level's 9, 10 and a half, which is almost 5 feet below normal winter pool. And the water temperature depends where you're at. I mean, you can find some low 40 degree to about 50, 51 degree. The further up the river arms you get, the colder the water that you'll find. But there's a deep bite and a shallow bite. The deep bite is still out there chasing a lot of the shad in the centers of the creeks, and some of them are out on the main lake, out off them long flat gravel points, and some of them are crazy deep, 70, 80 feet deep, and you'll find the bait out there that deep as well. What we've been using to catch them is, like a 3/4 ounce, 1 ounce slab spoon, Rapala ice fishing jig, at least a 7/8 ounce, and something that I've been throwing quite a bit is a lot of guys throwing Demiki rigs and drop shots, but on a Demiki rig with them fish that are super deep, I've actually built a little jig head. I've got them 1/2 and 5/8 and 3/4 ounce, where I can get the bait down there a lot quicker. And I've got a little, almost like an underspin, I've got a little blade in the head of it. But Big Bite also makes them up to 1 ounce. And what you want to do is you want to have a pretty small hook, because a lot of the baits I'm using on this particular bait, I've got a new missiles bait. I've been playing with some of them. Normally I throw just a straight tail like a Fluke Junior or a Big Bite jerk minnow, but this little Shockwave here, it's a 3.5. And it's been working really good for me, especially with some of them deep fish. You'll find them, but you can't get them to bite. It seemed like when I went to the paddle tail, I was able to get a lot of them fish that were a little finicky to bite. But it's by no means easy. When you get around a group that wants to bite, a lot of times there'll be some white bass in there. But some days you got to go around a bunch and fish a lot of different schools till you find some that are active. But when you find an active school, I mean, it can be lights out for an hour or so, or not, or you just struggle and catch one here and one there. But the deep bite is definitely producing the numbers of fish. But with the water temperature, being right there at 50 degrees, there's a good crankbait bite. But it's by no means easy as well. You got to put it in your hands and fish it for 6 to 8 hours. But there's Sunday I caught fish on a jerkbait. I caught some fish on an A-rig and a crankbait. But the crankbaits, normally you hear me talk a lot about the Spro, rock crawler, and the wigglewort. Now, even though I'm sponsored by Spro, I will throw other crankbaits. And I found that getting away from the crawdad crankbaits, I was getting a few more bites. It's not like I'm seeing shad up there, but for some reason, this is a rock crawler. I think it's called a cellmate, but I've also been throwing a flat-sided Strike King. And another good bait too is Berkeley makes it. It's a Fritz side. I mean, it'll get down there about 8 to 10 feet deep. So I try to just kind of mix it up a little bit. If I'm not getting bit, my rock crawler and stuff is my go-to crankbait this time of year. But if I'm not getting bit on that, I'll change color, or I'll go to a different style bait. Sometimes the fish just like a little bit different action. So just got to kind of play around with it, see what color they want. But on the jerkbait, if you're going to throw a jerkbait, I would look for the coldest water you can find. And where you're going to find that is up in the river arms. Even though the water's getting pretty low, them fish don't leave a lot of them creeks and, way up in the river arms. They'll just pull out to the centers of them. It may only be 12, 15 foot deep in some of them arms. But you want to look for channel swings, You know, you may find them up there early, fairly aggressive, and then you might have to slow down and throw a little finesse jig to catch him. But there's you know, a lot of different things that'll work. But I haven't found anything by any means that's really fast. I just got to be patient, and especially on them deep fish. I fished a tournament, I don't know, 2.5 weeks ago, and I could just not settle myself down or slow down long enough on them deep fish. You know, I was getting a little too antsy. I had too many schools of shad found, and instead of being patient, trying different baits on them, I'd just go from, you know, one creek to the next creek, and I didn't really fish that efficient. But, you know, I find this time of year you've really got to slow down. But the fun thing is, like I say, there's some white bass grouped up out there deep along with the Kentuckys. And the whole key to the deep bite is looking for the shad. And when I find some of them ones that are a little finicky, you know, some of them ones that are 35 to 45 feet deep, I'll pick up a drop shot. And normally my go-to worm on a drop shot's always been a brown purple chompers, laminated. But I've got some of these missile baits, and there's twice as many of these in a pack. There's like 16 in a pack, and there's a PBJ. And RoboWorm is who makes this particular bait for missiles, so it's a real good little bait. As far as jerkbait colors, you know, if it's sunny, I like something that's translucent, and I'll kind of go by the watercolor as well. If it's got a little bit of stain, I might, you know, put something a little chartreuse, more of a solid color, like a Norman flake, which is white with a purple back. And on the jerkbait, I'll throw a mixed stick, but I'll also throw a megabass from time to time. You know, whichever one bites the best, they bite the best, is the one I'm going to throw. But usually my go-to is a mixed stick. You know, they're about half the price of the megabass, so it doesn't hurt as bad when you lose one. But a lot of times, if I've got a fish following the jerkbait that I can see visually, or I can see them on my live scope, they'll come up and look at it and turn away. That's usually when I'll start changing colors. But, you know, a lot of times it's either the retrieve is not what they want, or the color is just not what they want. So I will mix up my retrieve a little bit different, and also change colors to try to get the fish to react to the bait. But it looks like, you know, we got 4 or 5 days of rain. I don't know, you know, how much it's going to rain, but that may stain up some of the river arms a little bit, where it may not be as good for the jerkbait. But if it stays warm and, you know, we get some of this rain, a good place to be is in the back of these creeks, because in the afternoons, a lot of that, you know, the ground and the rocks are warmer than the water. So there'll be a little bit of warmer water coming in the backs of the creeks, and it may trigger some of them fish back there as well. I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I guess till next year, good luck and good fishing.